session will be available then later in, on the platform, the Pulse platform, so you can rewatch it. But it's highly encouraged that you practice, that you come in person and that you engage in discussions with Adnane, and it's a privilege to be in a Q&A with the teacher personally. So with no further delay, I yield the floor to Adnane, and please, you want to introduce yourself and start the session.
Sure. Welcome everyone to this training session on the theories of entrepreneurship. As Enrique was saying, I work at University Mohammed VI Polytechnic, and I'm the head of the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Lab. I also teach entrepreneurship to master students. So today's session is about the theories of entrepreneurship. I have a number of slides that I have prepared. So we'll just start with the quick tech check. So if you could please mute your microphone and only unmute them if you want to ask a question. You can use obviously the chat comments. You can raise your hand or use reactions if you want to participate in the session. And participation is highly encouraged. We really want to have a session that is interactive. Camera is optional, but I always like to see the people with whom I'm interacting. So if you could also activate your camera, I think that would be great. So why are we having this session? We're having this session to explore the theories of entrepreneurship, and we are going to do that by re-examining the definition of entrepreneurship. As you probably already know, entrepreneurship has different meanings, different definitions. If you ask a number of people to define entrepreneurship, you can get many answers. And this comes from the fact that entrepreneurship is studied from different perspectives. We have the economic, the behavioral, the psychological, and the organizational perspective, and each perspective brings its own definition to this field. So by the end of this session, and in addition to exploring the diverse and varied theories of entrepreneurship, you'll be able to explain why this concept has multiple definitions. And you'll be able to distinguish between various theories, such as the risk theory, the dynamic theory, the threat theory, or the behavioral perspectives that are used to inform the entrepreneurship field. We are going also to provide the taxonomy to define entrepreneurship. So we look later on at the questions of the what, the who, the how, the why, the when, and where. And you'll be able to come up with a lexicon to describe different types of entrepreneurs with precision. So our agenda today is divided across 4 blocks. So we start by framing the concept. We'll then investigate the theoretical foundations. So we look at all the theories I've mentioned earlier, the risk theory, the dynamic theory, the threat theory, etc. We look at the taxonomy that we can provide to define entrepreneurship and to classify different subdomains of entrepreneurship. And then we look at the teaching applications of the learnings that we are going to have today during this session. So now I would like to ask you a question. When you hear the word entrepreneurship, what comes first to mind? So here you have 4 options: innovation, risk-taking, opportunity recognition, starting a business, or other. If you could please put your answers on chat. I'll try also to look at the answers that you are providing. Sonia, 1, Enrique, 4. Oh, I like the answer of Naima. You could have added 5 as well. All right, Dr. Abdul Hamid, 1 and 4. Excellent. So We can see that we have also Sylvia, Amira. Great. So we can see that there are different concepts that are associated with entrepreneurship, innovation, risk-taking, opportunity, recognition, starting a business, and other considerations. And these considerations are not necessarily mutually exclusive. They complement each other. Now, let us go to the next question. If you could please now write one sentence answering the question, what is entrepreneurship for you? If you could keep it short and simple, I would like to see your definitions of entrepreneurship. And remember, there is no wrong or right answer. All the answers are welcome. Okay. It's a mindset and action of innovation and creating value. I like your answer, Naima, and indeed we are going to look at the psychological dimension of entrepreneurship, the value creation as well. So we are going to look at the risk theory, keep moving. Okay, that's about resilience. It's about the behavioral school. We are going to look at that as well. Innovation, yes, we are going to look at innovation, at Schumpeter, at even creative destruction. An initiative to create and develop. Indeed, we are going to look at that. Of the behavioral school of entrepreneurship. Great, so we can see, we have an answer from Kautar. Is the process of identifying an opportunity, creating value, and building a sustainable solution by taking initiative, risk, and responsibility to transform an idea into impact. That's great. We are going to look at opportunity recognition as well during this course. Hunting for opportunities, yes. Opportunity identification and opportunity exploitation is indeed at the heart of entrepreneurship. So here we have several definitions. And as I said earlier, there is no right or wrong answer. All those answers are correct. And we need to have like a framework, taxonomy that allows us to organize all those ideas so that we provide precise definitions for the entrepreneurship phenomenon. And I think this would bring a lot of value to both researchers, practitioners, and also teachers and trainers such as ourselves. Dr. Abdul Hamid, entrepreneurship is the process of designing, launching, and running a new business. Indeed, that's also part of the behavioral school of entrepreneurship, which we are going to see later during this session. Okay, now let us carry with our session. So we can see that there is a definition problem. There is no single widely accepted definition of entrepreneurship. So you have talked about innovation, about opportunity, about the entrepreneurial behavior. And sometimes entrepreneurship is used as a label of convenience. And this can create sometimes confusion in teaching, research, or practice. So why do we have several definitions? Why definitions clash? It's because entrepreneurship is studied through multiple disciplines. It talks about economics, about psychology, about sociology, about management, and each discipline brings its own perspective. So, for example, economic theories are emphasizing profits, risks, and markets. Psychological approaches are focusing on the individual, his psychological traits, etc. Can I please ask Zineb and my colleagues to admit the people who are in the waiting room? I think there are at least 2 there. I'll try to admit them now.
Don't worry, I got it.
Thank you very much. The management perspective of entrepreneurship examines the processes, the organizations, and the strategy. And that's the reason why we have several definitions, several perspectives. So here, what we are trying to do is to move from contradiction to complementarity. So this is what we are going to see during this session. How are we going to do that? We are going to do that by defining several subdomains. So those subdomains are going to help us distinguish between different types of entrepreneurship. For example, we can have corporate entrepreneurship, which is the type of entrepreneurship that is happening inside established organizations. We can have social entrepreneurship, which does not necessarily have profit as a motive or an objective. We have opportunity entrepreneurship. Several of you have talked about opportunity recognition, opportunity exploitation. We can have necessity entrepreneurship, which is happening in our societies in North Africa. We have an employment issue, and several people go for entrepreneurship out of necessity. So all of those domains are going to be studied during this session. So why is this meaningful and interesting in TVET classrooms? Because our learners are going to encounter many meanings for entrepreneurship. This can create misunderstanding and can also create competing expectations. So here we are going to provide a language that is going to facilitate the dialogues with the trainees and also among ourselves as trainers. So this session, this lecture is based on a brilliant article written by a scholar called Stephen Gideon. So I don't know if my colleagues have provided you with this reading, but the foundations, the ideas that are contained in this session are largely obtained from this reading, and I highly encourage you to read it. It's quite interesting, and it's one of the best readings that I have encountered in the field of entrepreneurship. So let us look now at the historical roots of entrepreneurship. So the historical roots come from economics. So economics, when we deal with entrepreneurship, we have factors of production, land, labor, and capital. And an entrepreneur is someone who's going to derive a residual profit after mobilizing all those factors. So entrepreneurship is about generating surplus or residual profit. So for example, you have a farmer who's selling crops at a higher price than the cost of land rent, wages, or tools he or she uses to work on his or her land. A merchant who buys raw materials, pays workers, and then sells finished goods at a surplus. He is also, or she is also, an entrepreneur. And this is historically how entrepreneurship has been conceived. So we have a number of thinkers behind such conception of entrepreneurship. Adam Smith is one of them. So why are we having this residual profits? So this residual profit arises from uncertainty, market imperfections, changes, and not from routine coordination. So, and as a result, entrepreneurship has become associated with economic activities that explain why profits exist at all. So we have two economic lenses to discuss the entrepreneurship phenomenon. We have the risk perspective and also the dynamic profit perspective. So the risk theory of profits explains profits as a reward for bearing uncertainty and responsibility. An entrepreneur gets paid because he is navigating in an uncertain environment. So the other theory, which is the dynamic theory of profits, it's a theory that explains profits as a result of economic change and disequilibrium. And the entrepreneur becomes an agent who brings back the markets to a state of equilibrium. And rather than being contradictory, as we have said earlier, these lenses describe different dimensions of entrepreneurial behavior. We have just seen the risk theory of profit, and this is something that was described by early theorists such as the French-Scottish thinker Richard Cantillon. Later, writers such as Foley emphasized ownership and risk-taking, which distinguish entrepreneurs from managers. So here, when we speak of an entrepreneur, according to Holly, we need to have an ownership dimension, a new venture formation, and uncertainty. I think we've talked about this part, about the entrepreneurial uncertainty and the market coordination and the fact that entrepreneurs are able to get a profit because they take risks and they are distinct, for example, from wage earners who receive fixed income. Entrepreneurs indeed absorb the variability of outcomes. So let us now go back to the risk theory and discuss the ownership and the responsibility dimensions. So under this theory, entrepreneurship becomes increasingly linked to the ownership of the enterprise. And this is something very important because nowadays we speak about intrapreneurship, employees behaving entrepreneurially. And this is another conceptualization of entrepreneurship that we are going to discuss later on. But according to risk theory, an entrepreneur needs to own his or her enterprise. And this is, for example, the definition that is used by the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor to observe the entrepreneurial dynamic across different countries and to measure the entrepreneurship outcomes in those different countries. So this is what I've just talked about, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which was launched in 1999. It's a collaborative project that is involving several universities and research institutions. In Morocco, for example, we have University Hassan II that contributes to this work. And the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor distinguishes between key forms such as opportunity-driven entrepreneurship and necessity-driven entrepreneurship. Okay, question for the audience. So what types of risk do your learners, do TVET learners face when starting a micro enterprise? Here we have 4 options: financial risks, which can take the form of income instability, startup costs; market risks, for example, uncertain demand or entrenched competition; operational risks; or personal risks, such as family pressure, debt, time, etc., etc. Please use your chat to answer this question. And you can list several answers. They are not mutually exclusive. Okay, we have 5 answers. We have financial risks, and personal risks, all of them, according to Sylvia. 1, 2, 3. That's great. So indeed, our learners are facing several risks, and this could explain why, for example, we do not have the entrepreneurial dynamic we would like to see in our institutions, because as rational agents, those learners can see lots of risks in the horizon: financial risks, market risks, operational risks, personal risks, and prefer to go for a salaried option. And I think this is the added value of entrepreneur education is that we should show our learners how to de-risk their ventures. So there are methodologies and recipes that they can apply to de-risk their entrepreneurial ventures and proceed carefully when launching their business. Okay, now I think we should move to the next slide. Okay, we have just discussed the risks that TVET learners face when trying to launch their ventures, and the risk theory gives us several subdomains of entrepreneurship that we can discuss, research, such as owner-manager entrepreneurship. We can also discuss new venture entrepreneurship. For example, this focuses on the founding of new firms as the primary site where uncertainty and ownership intersect. We can look at high-risk entrepreneurship, etc., etc. So here we are example high-risk entrepreneurship. For example, start a business with personal savings or debts, launching business in an uncertain or volatile market. So all of these are examples of high-risk entrepreneurship that researchers can look at. Obviously, this is not the only definition, and likely so, that exists for entrepreneurship. So if we try to define entrepreneurship solely through risk-bearing entrepreneurship, we are going to overlook other types of entrepreneurship that are happening. For example, corporate entrepreneurship. This is the situation where managers and employees drive new ventures within their organizations. We can also overlook social entrepreneurship, academic entrepreneurship, or public sector entrepreneurship. So we are going later on to look at other perspectives, the dynamic profits perspective, the behavioral perspective, to discuss the limitations or overcome the limitations of the risk-only definitions of entrepreneurship. So the dynamic theory of entrepreneurship explains profits as arising from economic change, not from equilibrium conditions. So in a state of perfect competition and static equilibrium, profits are going to tend towards zero. So here, and according to this theory, profits emerge when markets are pushed out of equilibrium. Let's say, for example, that there is a housing crisis in a given region, let's say Casablanca, the city where I live. So this creates a situation of disequilibrium, and this situation of disequilibrium attracts entrepreneurs who are going to deploy capital, know-how, etc., to build new housing, selling it in the markets, and also derive profits. So here, and according to this theory, entrepreneurship is linked to market dynamics rather than ownership or risk alone. So here we have some examples. I've already mentioned the one pertaining to the housing market here. We can, for example, talk about reallocation of resources. For example, a farmer who shifts land from low-value cereal crops to high culture after market prices change. So this is also a type of entrepreneurship that is driven by market changes or market disequilibrium. Frederick Haig is one of the scholars who have this. So here we have two dynamic views of entrepreneurship. So we have versus Schumpeter, Austrian school versus Schumpeter. So the Austrian school views entrepreneurship as market coordinating process. Entrepreneurs act on information asymmetries, on unnoticed opportunities. Are helping the market go back to equilibrium. And profit results from being alert and adjusting the markets. So we talk a lot about opportunity alertness, and this opportunity alertness is indeed one concept that could be derived, for example, from the Austrian School of Economics. So in contrast, we have Joseph Schumpeter, who views entrepreneurship as a force of disequilibrium. So entrepreneurs can introduce new combinations, innovations, and they will engage into a process of creative destruction. For example, when the car was first introduced to the market, it has made several other means of transportation irrelevant, etc., etc. For example, the advent of generative AI is now making some, for example, the work of a translator. Maybe this is a job that is going to disappear one day or the other. So this is the type of creative destruction that Joseph Schumpeter is talking about. We've talked about alertness to opportunity. So this is the definition of the Austrian School of Economics, which defines entrepreneurship as a process of opportunity discovery, not ownership or innovation. And entrepreneurs are characterized by alertness to information asymmetries in the markets. For example, in my course, I have a whole chapter about opportunity discovery. So we have several tools, frameworks that we provide the students with so that they can help identify entrepreneurial opportunities. And I think all of this work can find its roots in the Austrian School of Economics. So, for example, we have the definition that has been provided by Israel Kirzner, who defines entrepreneurship as opportunity discovery, not innovation or ownership. And profits result in this case from discovering and exploiting existing opportunities, not from invention. And in this case, entrepreneurship can happen without founding a new firm or assuming ownership. For example, someone who is working for a corporate and established corporates can identify opportunities and execute on them while maintaining his or her salaried job. We also have, for example, Jean-Baptiste Say, who defines entrepreneurship as the act of shifting economic resources. So entrepreneurs move resources from lower productivity users to higher productivity or higher yield users. We have also another perspective from John Bates Clark, who explained profits as a temporary result of innovation. So when an entrepreneur introduces a new method, product, or process, costs fall and value increases. So this creates a temporary advantage over competitors. And as competitors imitate the innovation, disappears. And I think this for example, theoretical perspective gives rise to the concept of qualitative ownership. Some countries, for example, proceed in several decades, copy other economies and then producing them at a low cost. And this is the temporary advantage imitation that John Bates Clark is alluding to. We have talked about Schumpeter, who has defined entrepreneurship as the act of carrying out new combinations. So there are several combinations that can take place: the introduction of new products, the adoption of new production methods, the opening of new markets, the discovery of new sources of supply, the creation of new organizational forms. So all of that can disrupt existing equilibria and drive also economic development through creative discussions. We destroy the old to build the new. And this is something that is happening, that is increasingly happening, especially in the knowledge economy in which we are currently living. We have also Peter Drucker, who has extended entrepreneurship beyond its historical roots in profit-seeking business activity. So here we are addressing, for example, corporate entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship. So all of that is now possible because of the views and the theoretical concepts that have been introduced by scholars such as Peter Drucker. So here we view entrepreneurship as a behavioral and opportunity-driven process that is not limited to startups. For example, we talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. This mindset that pushes someone to be autonomous, dynamic, open-minded, proactive, tenacious, etc. So this is these ideas are derived from scholars such as Peter Drucker. Okay, so we've talked about the dynamic theory, and now it's time to look at its different subdomains. So we talked about the innovative entrepreneurship, and this is the Schumpeterian view. We talked about the imitative entrepreneurship. We talked about the adaptive entrepreneurship, which responds to environmental and market changes. We can talk also about speculative entrepreneurship, trying to anticipate future market conditions and acting before the others. We talked about arbitrage entrepreneurship. We are trying to exploit price differences between different locations or different markets. So all of those are subdomains of the dynamic theory of entrepreneurship. Okay, time now to go back to the audience and use your keyboards to answer the following question. Which perspective best describes the entrepreneurial behavior of most of your learners? Are they risk owners? So they start and own a business. Are they opportunity alerts? So they identify gaps, etc., and execute on them, whether through starting their own business or in their organizations in which they are employed. Are they innovators? Are they resource shifters, reallocating resources to higher value users, or are they corporate transformers? Please use the chat to answer this question. They are risk owners, according to Naima Jenny. Same for Nazim Maher. Opportunity alerts and innovators. 3 and 5, innovators, corporate transformers. Interesting. So our colleagues from Libya think about 3 innovators. Okay, that's interesting. And all of these are perspectives of the dynamic theory. And once again, there is no right or wrong answers. These are descriptions of the phenomena we are noticing in our environments. Thank you for your answers. Now it's time to go back to our slides. And we are going to look at the trade school, which focuses on the person. So here, instead of talking about markets or firms, we talk about the individual entrepreneur. And as such, entrepreneurship will be defined through the person characteristics and the role behavior of the entrepreneur, him or herself. And for example, we have scholars such as David McClelland, who emphasize traits such as need for achievement, risk-taking, propensity, initiative, and responsibility. So all of these are traits that distinguish entrepreneurs or individuals who are behaving entrepreneurially. And this school of thoughts is broadening entrepreneurship beyond ownership. And the question that scholars have asked themselves is whether these traits are universal. Are these traits consistent? And there is no obvious answer for that, I think. So we discussed some of the traits that distinguish entrepreneurs. We talked about the need for achievement. We talked about the propensity for risk-taking, locus of control, which refers to the belief that outcomes result from one's own actions rather than external forces, leadership and initiative, independence, energy, future orientation, and responsibility. So all of these traits can be used to describe entrepreneurs. And at UM6P, we use the entrepreneur mindset profile, which is a questionnaire that has been developed by, I believe, scholars and psychologists to distinguish between entrepreneurs and managers. And several of those traits are listed in the papers that have informed this questionnaire. For example, need for achievement, risk-taking, locus of control. All of that is asked about in the questionnaires that those scholars have developed. But obviously, this approach has several critiques. So empirical studies fail to identify consistent sets of traits. So the attempt to define a typical entrepreneur profile has proved unreliable and inconsistent. So, and those critiques have led scholars to now consider or to move from who entrepreneurs are to what entrepreneurs do. And this is why we are going to look during the next slides at the behavioral school of entrepreneurship, which deals with what entrepreneurs do. We have also the issue of context, which is an important thing because entrepreneurship is also a contextual phenomenon. Given person, when put in different contexts, can have two different behaviors. He or she can have an entrepreneurial behavior in one context and not the other. So contemporary research recognizes that founders' characteristics, goals, and motivations influence venture behavior. We have just said that entrepreneurial action is also shaped by social, culture, and the economic environment in which it occurs. Entrepreneurs can also pursue different objectives. Some of them decide to launch lifestyle ventures, while others are more about growth or innovation-driven enterprises. And this perspective supports other subdomain classifications, which we are going to look at shortly. So among the subdomains that one can discuss, we have immigrant entrepreneurship, we have gender-based entrepreneurship, team entrepreneurship, lifestyle entrepreneurship, opportunity entrepreneurship, necessity entrepreneurship, and all of those subdomains take into account the context and the people who are involved in the entrepreneurial behavior in question. Let us now look at the behavioral school, and which focuses on the process. So here we are going to, for example, look at the actions that entrepreneur can take in order to execute on different opportunities. So, for example, William Gartner argued that asking who is an entrepreneur is a wrong question. And instead, he advances that entrepreneurship should be understood as the process by which new organizations come into existence. So here we are going to look at activities, decisions, sequences of actions involved in venture creation. So we have other scholars, such as the two that are listed who are listed on this slide, Howard Stevenson and Javier Jarillo, which further defined entrepreneurship as pursuing opportunities without regard to resources currently controlled. And this approach, or this school of thought, broadens entrepreneurship beyond individual traits to include teams, employees, and organizations. So the two scholars we have just cited defined entrepreneurship as the pursuit of opportunity, and entrepreneurs are distinguished by their ability to mobilize, access, and leverage external resources. And those resources may include capital, skills, networks, partnerships, and also institutional support. And as such, ownership of resources is not required for entrepreneurial action. And entrepreneurship is viewed in such case as a continuous process that can occur within new or existing organizations. So this behavioral school asks the question of when entrepreneurship happens. So this is a process that is unfolding over time. For example, we can talk about emergent entrepreneurship, which refers to early idea formation and opportunity exploration. We can talk about nascent entrepreneurship, which involves concrete actions towards venture creation. We can talk about startup entrepreneurship, which marks the formal launch of a new organization. We can talk about growth entrepreneurship, which focuses on scaling operations once a viable and repeatable business model has been identified. We can talk about transformation entrepreneurship when existing organizations are undergoing a process of renewal and reconfiguration. So as emphasized by William Kartner, entrepreneurship spans all stages where newness and change are introduced. We have talked about corporate entrepreneurship during this session. I think we are not going to repeat what has already been said. So the behavioral subdomains that derive from the behavioral school can include the emergent entrepreneurship, the nascent entrepreneurship, startup entrepreneurship, growth entrepreneurship, transformation entrepreneurship. So all of these can be added to the lexicon we are going to look at and to the taxonomy that can be used to classify the entrepreneurship phenomenon. So how can we turn all this theory into teaching resources? So as we have just seen entrepreneurship theories emphasize different dimensions of the same phenomenon. And those contradictions that we have seen arise because theories answer different questions. So rather than selecting one correct definition, the article that I have referred to in the beginning, What is Entrepreneurship by Stephen Gideon, proposes organizing them systematically. And this article introduces a classification taxonomy. And this taxonomy is reconciling the economic, psychological, and behavioral perspectives of entrepreneurship. So the taxonomy helps us organize the multiple meanings of entrepreneurship by asking a number of questions. So we have the what question. So this is the field or domain of entrepreneurship activity. We have the who, the individual, the group, or the organization that is acting entrepreneurially. We have the mechanism by which value is created. We have looked at market equilibrium. We have looked at creative destruction. So this question looks at those issues. We have the why, the goals and motivations driving the activity. Is it a social enterprise that is involved here, or a for-profit one? The stages of venture, emergence of transformation is are also addressed by the when question. And finally, the where, which is the environmental or the contextual setting in which entrepreneurship is happening. So in order to provide a precise definition for entrepreneurship, we need to ask all those questions in order to come up with a precise definition. Let us now look at the what question. So we've seen that historically and early theories implicitly assume business entrepreneurship, which was focusing on profit-seeking activity. And later, entrepreneurship has been extended to non-business domains. So we have the social entrepreneurship domain, the academic entrepreneurship domain. We have several of our colleagues at UM6P who are engaged in the commercialization of or the application of knowledge and research. We have political entrepreneurship, so innovation in public policy or governance systems. We have also criminal entrepreneurship. So all those individuals who are engaged into illegal activities are also could be classified as entrepreneurs, but they are criminal entrepreneurs. We have the who. Who is behaving entrepreneurially? Who is acting entrepreneurially? The earlier definitions, as we all know, were focusing on the independent individual entrepreneurs. And later, theories introduced, for example, team entrepreneurship. So this is a group or founding team that is acting entrepreneurially. Corporate entrepreneurship. So here, the who refers to the organization in question. Employee entrepreneurship. So these are all the entrepreneurs who are trying to introduce new products, services to benefit their firms. Family business entrepreneurship. So, and we can also discuss the founder versus the inheritor. There are some people who inherit businesses and have to manage them and to continue the legacy that they have inherited. We have the how question, how value is created. So we have talked about the dynamic theory of profit or the Austrian school. So the one that views entrepreneurship as a process of bringing back markets into equilibrium. We have talked about innovative entrepreneurship, imitative entrepreneurship, adaptive entrepreneurship, speculative, and arbitrage entrepreneurship. So innovation and creative destruction brings the markets into disequilibrium, but as other people copy these ideas, the market is brought back into equilibrium. And this could be done through imitation, arbitrage, or adjustment. We have the why. So we have talked about the trade school of entrepreneurship. We have the opportunity entrepreneurship, necessity entrepreneurship, lifestyle entrepreneurship, high expectation entrepreneurship. So the one that is trying to scale up ventures and expand them into other countries and geographies. We have the when, and we discussed that. So the emergent, the nascent, the startup entrepreneurship. So all of these are stages of entrepreneurship that deserve to be distinguished, because the type of entrepreneurial behavior that happens in emergent entrepreneurship is not the same one as the one that happens during transformation entrepreneurship, renewal and reconfiguration of existing organizations. We have the where, and here we can distinguish local entrepreneurship, which is embedded in local markets, institutions, and community networks. We can talk about international entrepreneurship, which operates across national borders and multiple regulatory systems, such as Google or other similar firms. We can talk about grassroots entrepreneurship, which emerges from community level initiatives with limited resources. And this is something that we can have in our environments. We have diaspora entrepreneurship. So people who are leveraging transnational networks and cultural ties to develop businesses in their countries of origin. We can talk about indigenous entrepreneurship, which is local traditions, identity, and collective values, etc., etc. So how does the lexicon that the article that Stephen Giddon is proposing work? So it works by adding adjectives for precision. So, and each adjective corresponds to one dimension of the taxonomy: the what, the who, the how, the why, the when, and the where. And we are going to do an exercise shortly after so that you can have like a concrete application of this taxonomy. And by adding those adjectives, one increases conceptual precision and clarifies the subjects of analysis. And those adjectives should be explicitly stated when a dimension is relevant or controlled, and they can be omitted only when that's, for example, when we omit a dimension, for example, when we omit to precise whether it's social entrepreneurship or corporate entrepreneurship, we can assume that it's business entrepreneurship, the one that is driven by profit. Sorry. I will correct that. When we omit an adjective, it signals that multiple subdomains may be included. So, for example, when we talk about entrepreneurship in general terms, we can assume that it's business, social entrepreneurship, or transformative entrepreneurship. And this careful use of adjectives prevents ambiguity and misinterpretation. And as I have just said, we are going to do an exercise that will help us clarify all of that. So shortly, you are going to receive two short mini cases describing two different entrepreneurial situations. So for each case, you are going to use the 6-question taxonomy: the what, the who, the how, the why, the when, and the where. And if you could, maybe if you have a pen or if you can work on your keyboards, and you are going to propose the label for this entrepreneurship behavior. For example, you can say this is local, startup, opportunity, innovative, independent business entrepreneurship. So these are the two cases. I'm going to leave them on screen shortly. Before that, we are going to look at the taxonomy. So these are the questions that you should ask yourself, and this is the order: the what, is it a business entrepreneur or social entrepreneur? The who, so is it an independent individual or a team or an organization that is behaving entrepreneurially? The how, so is it an innovative business or one that is imitative? The why, is it driven by opportunity recognition or by necessity, among other things? The when, so is it like a nascent business or one that is mature and that is undergoing transformation? And the where, so is it a local startup opportunity or one that is cross-border? So these are the questions that you need to ask yourselves to describe those two situations. So we have, in the first case, a local family food business. So this is a woman who recently migrated to a small town and has started a family-run catering business preparing traditional meals. She is using her personal savings and she is working with relatives and sells mainly to the local community. She chose entrepreneurship after struggling to find paid employment. So the business offers familiar products similar to existing food services and has been operating for 6 months. So this is the first case. The second case is about corporate renewable energy initiative. So this is a team of engineers within a large energy company who has launched an internal project to develop low-cost solar solutions for rural schools. The project uses company resources and external partnerships without creating a new legal entity. The goal is to expand the company's social and environmental impact while opening new markets. So this initiative introduces a new delivery model and is currently in a pilot phase across several regions. So now the question is that you need to use the taxonomy that has been provided and to tell us the type of entrepreneurship that we have before our hands in those two cases. Please use your chat to answer those questions. And if anything is unclear, please let me know. Please unmute your mic and ask your question so that I can guide you in answering those questions. The answer is a sentence which has several adjectives that describe the entrepreneurship phenomenon in both cases. So we have one sentence for mini case 1 and another sentence for mini case 2.
Okay, so you can speak right on the chat.
Yes. So since we have about 20 people, we should have 20 answers.
Okay, I hope we have
20 answers multiplied by 2, so that's 40. So maybe to make things simple, you can answer in one single chat. Mini case 1, this is the type of entrepreneurship. Mini case 2, and this is the type of entrepreneurship that we are discussing here. I hope it's clear. Oh, we have first answer from Nadia. Business entrepreneurship. Okay, that's it's true, but you can make it even more precise. So for example, as you can see here, we have started, like, for example, you started with business entrepreneur, then maybe you need now to discuss who is involved and the how, the why and the when and the where. And at the end, you will end up with the sentence like this: local startup opportunity, innovative, independent business entrepreneur. So we need an answer that is as detailed as this one. And you should put that into a single sentence, because otherwise we need to go back and reconcile everything that you have put to come up with our definition. Okay. Yes, I agree with you, Dr. Abdelhamid. The first one is about business entrepreneurship, but we need, is it a local or global business? Is it about opportunity entrepreneurship or necessity entrepreneurship? And all of that needs to be put into a single sentence. Local, oh, that's much better. I think we can, so the answer of Melbati has more precision. The Naima one is even better because she's talking about the who. She's adding the independent one. Yes, and is it independent entrepreneurship or family-run one? So this is a great question. We have two answers, one from Naima and Nadia. We're going to see later which one is correct. For the mini case 1, remember that you have mini case 1 and you have also mini case 2, which talks about this corporate renewable energy initiative. Yes, it's starting out of necessity. Indeed, in case one, we are talking about local entrepreneurship. So we are going to maybe wait another couple of minutes before showing you the answers, but please continue providing your answers so that we can comment them and discuss them with the audience. I've noticed that the mini case two did not have many answers. So what type of entrepreneurship is involved here? Hmm. So here we have a team. Yes, it's about team entrepreneurship. I believe it has a social dimension to it. Is it innovative or imitative? Is it taking place locally or does it have a global reach? So all of those questions need to be answered. Innovative, imitative business. Okay. That's an opportunity business. Is it really business entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship? Emira says it's about social responsibility. It's about entrepreneurship, social entrepreneur, local. Is it really local or can it be scaled to other regions? Okay, we are going to look at the answers. So, mini case one. Mini case one, it's about local startup, necessity, imitative immigrant family business entrepreneurship. So these are the adjectives that help us answer the different questions. So local, we start from the end. So the where, this is local. And then we discuss the stage. If I remember well, she has been operating her business since 6 months. So this is in the startup phase. The why, the motivation, is because she has struggled to find job opportunities. So this is necessity. It's imitative because she is cooking meals that exist elsewhere, copying recipes. It's also she's working with her family and they have migrated recently. So it's immigrant family and business entrepreneurship because it's for profit. Now, let us look at the second case, the where. It's multi-regional because this social initiative could be implemented in several regions. It's also about transformation entrepreneurship, because it's about helping the organization renew itself through new social entrepreneurship. It's about opportunity. They have noticed an opportunity that could be solved by those solar-driven solutions. It's about innovation because they are using new ideas, novel ones. It's also about corporates because this is something that is happening inside an established organization. And it's also about social entrepreneurship. So this is how the taxonomy works. And this, do we have questions? If we have questions, please ask them on chat. I can answer them. So when using a shared entrepreneurship lexicon, we reduce confusion. caused by vague or conflicting definitions, because as we have seen in the beginning, we have several definitions and they complement each other. Sometimes they can enter into conflict. And I think those clear labels can help trainers design curricula. So if we want to teach our students social entrepreneurship, we have a specific curricula for that. If we want them to launch for-profit businesses, we have a different set of curricula that is going to promote different skills, going to provide different type of support compared to social entrepreneurship. And I think this precision will also improve communication between trainers, learners, and policy makers. So we have done all of that, and it's time now to define entrepreneurship. So can we come up with the single definition that encompasses all the theories that we have looked at? And this is the definition that has been provided by Stephen Gideon. And Stephen Gideon says that entrepreneurship is a multi-dimensional concept that includes owning a small business. So this is the risk theory. Being innovative. So this is the dynamic theory. Or acting as leader. This is the trade school. Starting up a new company. This is the behavioral school. It includes spotting opportunities to drive the market towards equilibrium. This is the Austrian school. Or causing disequilibrium through creative distractions. So this is Schumpeter, these are Schumpeter ideas. It includes doing this on your own, in a team, or inside a company. This is the where and the who question. It involves starting without any resources and creating new values in the realm of business, social values, governments, or academia. And so by adding the right set of adjectives to the noun entrepreneur, the proposed lexicon that we have discussed in this session, and that is also discussed in the article by Stephen Gideon, allows us to embrace and discuss all these facets of what it means to be an entrepreneur. I think that brings my session to an end. I hope you found this content useful. And obviously, if you have any questions, please ask them on chat or feel free to unmute your mic to ask them. We have first question from Nadia Elbish. Please go ahead, unmute your mic and ask your question. How do you adapt a structured entrepreneurship lexicon to local contexts where entrepreneurship is often informal or necessity-driven? So this is the lexicon. Yes, I think we can. I think the lexicon allows us to differentiate between opportunity and necessity-driven entrepreneurship. So this is the why question. And the lexicon allows us to address that. Local context, yes. So we have in the lexicon the where. So we can discuss, for example, businesses that have a local ambition compared to ones that have a global one. And informal, this is something also that can be included in the lexicon. I think that's maybe it can be included in the necessity-driven entrepreneurship. There is no adjective, for example, that distinguishes between formal or informal, and we can maybe put it under the necessity umbrella. I hope I've answered your question, Nadia. Do you have other questions? Theory is based on North context, how the lexicon can be learned by the Southern. Well, I think this is the beauty of this lexicon. is that it allows us to describe different types of entrepreneurship. I think, for example, when we say that an entrepreneur is someone that that brings the market into equilibrium, there is nothing northern in this idea. It's something that is universal, something that was happening in the old times and that is still happening. When we talk about the innovation dimension, creative disruption, so even if innovations are coming maybe from the northern hemisphere, there is nothing that prevents the southern countries to develop their own innovations, and we have some of them. For example, M-Pesa in Kenya, etc. These are kind of innovations that have come from southern countries. The literature of Dos Santos, I don't know this one. Maybe you can tell us more about it. I'm happy to look at it and maybe provide you with an answer.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I prefer to write. So De Santos Buenaventura is on literature. Is based on their paper on the studies of the South. It means that theories as entrepreneur theory is based on the research. I mean, is based on North countries, North context. But I don't think that for myself. I'm in Africa. I'm in Tunisia. So I think that the context is not the same. So I ask myself always if how we can do with a theory which is was the result of all this research are based on other contexts that the African context. So when you say to me as Kenya or Nigeria or other countries, African countries, I don't know if lexical is very important because finally all this company, in fact, in my opinion, in my lecture, I think that all this company are are managed by people or by people from other countries than Nigerian or Kenyan or Tunisian or so on. So maybe the context for our countries on the south, maybe I'm not sure. I'm just brainstorming. Maybe here the lexical or can be other meanings, or it must be taken from another part. So
no, you're right. You're right. I mean, we've talked about the importance of context, and and this is what we are trying to address through those different questions: the what, the how, the who, the where, the when, etc. So all those elements taken together allows us to define a particular context, whether it's something that is happening in countries of the south or the north. And this is a slide that talks about that. And it talks also about why contemporary research is recognizing how their characteristics, goals, and motivations when discussing venture creation. It also looks at the fact that entrepreneurial action is also shaped by the social, cultural, and economic environment in which it occurs. So I think that the points that you are alluding to is embedded in this sentence: the social, cultural, and environment in which it occurs. So this lexicon allows us to take into account the context and the where and the who. So this is something that is not disregarded by the lexicon. And this lexicon, it allows us only to describe the phenomenon that we are observing. So for example, when it talks about entrepreneurship in a country such as Morocco or Tunisia, we can refer to entrepreneurship in those instances through this lexicon and study them in depth and studying them in a precise manner by taking into account the contextual elements that are shaping this entrepreneurial behavior. I don't know if I have addressed your question, Nadia. Thank you, Nadia, for your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe we can have the opportunity to discuss about that another time.
Absolutely, yes. I think
thank you very much.
This is the added value of a project such as Pulse. It creates a forum where ideas can be exchanged. Do we have other questions from the audience? I think we are done. I think I've finished 10 minutes before the time that was allocated to me. Thank you very much for your attention, for your participation. I hope that you have found this content useful. We are going to share with you this PowerPoint presentation. Also, the recording is going to be made available to you. In addition to the article by Stephen Gedeon, which I personally find very interesting, and I encourage you to read if you have time. Thank you once again, and I look forward to other similar learning opportunities via the PASS project. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you so much, Adnane. Thank you so much. Please send the article to me so that I can make it available to everyone on the Pulse platform as attachment to your unit. And this recording will be made available also to the corresponding unit in the course, so you can access it while you're doing the course. Thank you so much for your time, Adnane.
Before we close the session, can I please ask you to operate your cameras? I would like to take screenshots and a photo. Maybe
sure,
we can
indeed
on our social media, on the Pulse social media. Great, nice. It will allow me also to know some new faces. Safa, Sonia, Abdul Adil.
Yes, Sonia.
Can you please activate your cameras? Okay, I think that's already great. Thank you very much. Have a great end of the day and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. See you soon.